my favorite stories from out on the road really taught me a lot about the power of prayer. It was one of my first assemblies, and it was right before the night event, and the volunteers were there and the pastors were there, and everybody was walking throughout the gym, and we were praying for the people who were going to be coming that night. And as we were praying, I went and sat up on the bleachers and I prayed for the person who was going to sit in that spot. I just prayed especially for them, that the Lord would be working on their heart. And as the night event started and the evening went on, I looked up to see that there was a girl who was about 15 years old sitting up in that spot. She looked pretty disinterested, like she didn't really care what was going on, and I didn't think anything about it, but after the crowds had dismissed and people were walking out, it was like God just put her right there in front of me. And I asked her what her name was. She said her name was Mackenzie, and I asked her, well, what did you think of tonight? And she seemed just kind of standoffish, and I asked her, are you right with God? And she said no, that she wasn't. And so we talked about her heart condition and where she was at with the Lord and how her sins were keeping her away from Him. We talked about Romans 6:23, that her wages of sin was death, and it was separating her from God, and that God had given Jesus as the gift that we could accept. And I said, you're going to make a choice. If you're going to ignore God, that means you're rejecting God, or you can accept Him as your Savior. And that night she chose to stop ignoring God and to accept Him as her Savior. Later that night, I checked my email after the night event, and Mackenzie had emailed me, and she was wondering, how can I live a better life? How can I be more devoted to God? And that was just really encouraging to see that it wasn't just something that had happened and 15 minutes later she was back to her same old self. She was really serious about committing her life to Christ. And even 4 months later, I have kept in contact with her and talked to her, and she said that her and her mom are attending church, and she's really growing in her relationship with the Lord. And so I think that has been one of my favorite stories from being on the road, because it has shown me the power of prayer, and that we don't even know what God's doing in the hearts of these kids before they hear the gospel, but it's just really neat that we can be a part of it.